So the other type is a point coordination function, or PCF. Due to the priority of PCF over DCF, stations that only use DCF may not gain access to the medium. We said PCF is prioritized over DCF. So if a station using DCF wants to access the channel and other stations use PCF, maybe it will not get the chance to access the channel. To prevent this issue, a repetition interval is used to cover both contention-free, which is PCF, and contention-based or a random access period. So here we use control frames. These control frames are called beacons. So beacon, at the start of each interval there is a beacon, beacon frame repeated at the start of each control or at each interval. So this is the repetition interval. At the next repetition we'll have another beacon. When the station hear the beacon frame, they start their network allocation vector. So any station hearing the beacon will start their network allocation vector for the whole period of the contention free. They cannot control or try to access the channel in this contention free period. They only can access the channel in the contention period. Here there is the random access time. Channels can try to access the channel using carrier sense, multiple access, collision avoidance. But here in the contention free, the access point controls the communication. They cannot try. The access point will tell the station to pull it. Tell it means we pull this station, check if it has any data. So it has data, it will send its data. It will check again this station. So this will control communication in this contention free period. So the other stations will call their network allocation vector. But when the contention free period ends, the network allocation vectors will expire and all the stations can try to access the channel using the carrier sense multiple access collision avoidance. So during the repetition interval, the PC or point coordinate controller can send, which is the access point in this kind, can send a pull frame, receive data, send acknowledgement, receive acknowledgement, or do any combination of these things. At the end of contention free period, you see we have another control frame called contention free end. So after this, the network allocation vectors expired and the contention based station access channel using the collision avoidance protocol. This is the point coordination function, and as we said, it's optional. You can implement it on top of this distributed coordination function, but to implement it you need access point to control the because the access point will do these control frames. So the access point sends the beacon and the contention free end frames. Other station cannot do this job. We have an issue in wireless networks. It's called hidden station problem. So think of these three stations. Station C is its range, communication range. Station B communication range is this. So in the if for here A is in the range of C and the range of B both. In the middle, station C, station B is sending data to station A. In the middle of this communication is going, station C wants to send data to A because A and C are in range. But C does not know that A is receiving data from B because B is not in the range of C. So when C senses the channel, it cannot sense this signal because it is not within its reach. So it will see the channel is empty and will start sending the data to A. But because A is receiving another data from B, collisions will happen and the data will be damaged. Okay, so this is the hidden station problem because B is hidden from C. Okay, and C is also hidden from B. Hidden stations can reduce the capacity of the network because of the possibility of collisions, of course. You see, this communication was going on, but then this tried to communicate and that communication was the packets will be damaged and they can you need to resend them, so you are eventually reducing the efficiency of or the capacity of your network. Therefore, we try to avoid this problem. To avoid this problem, we can use the CTS and RTS frames. The solution to the hidden station problem is to use the control or handshake frames called RTS and CTS, ready to send and clear to send. RTS message from B reaches A, so B will ask A if you are ready to send, so you send this RTS to A. A will send a clear to send. So when A sends a clear to send, both B and C, because C is in the range of A, so C also will listen to this CTS, can hear it. When it hears this CTS, it will know that some other station hidden from it is trying to communicate with A. Therefore, it will not communicate. It will stay until some time, then it can try to communicate again. Okay, so this is the solution of hidden station problem. We said that we can use the handshake buckets or control frames called ready to send and CTS clear to send packets. These are optional also, like the point coordination function. You can enable them if you suffer from the hidden station problem. And the last slide is about the physical layer of 802.11. We may need to go into a bit more detail about these implementations, but for now, the original standard 802.11 used the 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth and the frequency range, and with a bandwidth of 20 megahertz. The maximum data rate was 2 megabit per second. I think it was 1997 this standard released. Then came the standard B after. The B also uses the 2.4 gigahertz frequency range with a bandwidth of 20 megahertz, but it can achieve a maximum data rate of 11 megabits per second. Of course, it can work at lower data rates, 2, 4, and 5. I don't remember exactly, but this is the maximum data rate for 802.11b. And it uses the direct sequence spread spectrum. You will study these modulation techniques in the wireless course. The other standard is 802.11a. This the major difference, it uses the 5 gigahertz frequency and uses the OFDM, orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. I think this is 2 megabit per second maximum. I think it's I'll double check that. The G standard was released later. It uses both bands, 2.4 gig and 5 gig, so you can use any of these two bands with a bandwidth of 20, but it can achieve a data rate of up to 54 megabit per second. The the standard G uses orthogonal frequency division modulation. Then the wireless 802.11n, which uses the MIMO technology, multiple input MIMO. So instead of 2 antennas, to communicate, you can use multiple. Normally you use 4 in standard N. So you have 4 antennas. They all communicate in parallel to achieve higher data rate. It uses 5 gigahertz frequency, and bandwidth is, you can use 20 or 40 megahertz. Can achieve up to 16 megabit per second. The other standard is 802.11ac. Uses the OFDM and 5 gigahertz frequency with bandwidths 20, 40, 80 or 160. This can get up to, of course this still not fully implemented, but if it is done, then you can reach up to 6.93 gigabit per second data rates, which is quite high, like 10 gigabit Ethernet. Is quite a high bit rate with, but of course there are differences in range. So this range about 35 meters. These ones mostly about 100 meters. This one, the B, for example, can go higher to higher distances. We may go into some more detail about this if you have some time. Okay, thank you. That's all about today's lecture. Now we'll see if you have any